Hello everybody and welcome back. This is our last lesson now on plants, lesson 10. Today we are going to look at the final part of our plant learning, which is photosynthesis. For this you're only going to need a pencil and some paper, maybe some crayons if you want to make it a little bit more colourful. But we are going to recap quite a few of the things at the start of the lesson that we've learned before. So make sure you've got your pencil and paper ready and off we go. So I'm just going to share this with you. There we go. Okay, so like I said, I've been Mr. Start, and this is the last time we're going to do this. A bit disappointed, actually. This is the last one because I've quite enjoyed doing these. I don't usually get to teach year 3 subjects. I'm normally a year 5 teacher, so it's been really nice to explore plants with you and do some of the investigations. I hope your bean has come along quite well. You may have disposed of it by now after several days or weeks. And hopefully you enjoyed the helicopter seeds, the celery with the different color, and various other things that we've done. So this is our last one, and we're going to start off with a little recap. So last lesson, we looked at how water transported through plants. Can you remember exactly what happened? Pause the video and try to remind yourself what happened. Okay. Let's see if you can remember. Could remember those. So the water starts in the ground and is absorbed by the roots. The water then progresses through the plant's vascular system, through the stem, and inside the stem you've got the xylem, which are like the veins of the plant. This is then carried up through the stem towards the leaves and the flower, where very important that the leaves and flower receive that water so they can produce the energy and do their jobs for the life cycle of the plant. Okay, a little while since we've done this. This was right back in the first lesson. We had a bit of a food chain. See if you can link up our food web here with what eats what. See if you can remember. You might want to go back and look at what you wrote before, but see what you can remember. Pause the video, see if you can join them up. Okay. Let's see. Well, I know that the sun is going to start off. That's going to be the first part of the food web. That's going to go to the berries, which would be the producer. Then what would eat the berries? Let's have a look. Well, I don't think the fox would really eat a berry. That would make it an omnivore, which a fox isn't. A fox is a carnivore. That's right. Yes, it's a carnivore. So we need a herbivore. What would be the herbivore? Well, the mouse would be, that would be a good one. So the mouse would be our herbivore, eating the producer. It would be the primary consumer. And the insect as well. Yep, so the insect as well. But then what would eat the insect? A big nasty spider up there would be a carnivore, wouldn't it? Or a predator, or secondary consumer, whichever way you want to say, use your terms there. Good vocabulary, by the way. Then what would eat the spider? The fox. The fox would also eat the mouse. So those are the ways that they were linked on this. Obviously, we could throw so many more animals in there, and it's something you could go away and have a go at again and come up with a food web, going back to our plants being the producers. Okay, so some questions here. So pause the video, write these questions down, and try to answer them. Off you go. Okay, let's go through those questions then and see if we can remember the answers. So what does a plant need to grow? We need sunlight, water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, room, nutrients. Brilliant. Do all plants need the same amount of sunlight? Well, I don't know if you said no. We go back again to our example of the fern and the cactus. A cactus lives in the desert, lots of sunlight, but a fern lives in the forest, in the undergrowth. So not much sunlight needed there as much, but they all need sunlight. They all need sunlight at some point. What do we call the spreading of seeds? Well, I don't know if you said seed dispersal. What does Mrs. Gren stand for? Movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, don't giggle, and nutrition. Brilliant. Can you name any 3 parts of a flower? Stem, stem, Mr. Starting, what are you doing? That is not part of the flower. Petal, ovary, ovule, stigma, style, anther, filament. Brilliant if you got any of those. You could have also thrown in the pollen because that's produced, isn't it? And what plant can live a year without new water? Well done if you said cactus, yes. The only plant that I seem to be able to grow because I forget about planting them so much. Right, let's get into our lesson then, our last lesson, and this is on photosynthesis. Now, you may have heard of this word before. It's a very big word. I would write that word down now carefully with the spelling. Have you done that? Pause the video if you need a bit more time. Okay, the reason I say we're going to pause it is because once we've had a look at, I've got these around the wrong way, we need paper and pencil today. Once we've had a look at the word, we're going to break it down. So photosynthesis is one of our key words, obviously. We've got leaves, roots, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. Tell me, what are carbon dioxide and oxygen? Well done if you said a gas. Yes, they're both gases, and they're very important for the plants to live. Chlorophyll is another big word that we're going to learn today. Okay, so back to photosynthesis there. And like I said, you should have written that down because photosynthesis is a combination of two words. Photo, you think about taking a photo. When you take a photo, you're taking a photograph. And a photograph is a picture of light. And photo means light. So a photograph is a picture of light. Synthesis means putting together. So when we put those two words together, light and putting together, that gives you a bit of a clue about what photosynthesis will mean, because it is light putting things together and using it in order to create something. And you may have guessed what to create because I've talked about it before in previous lessons. Okay, so hopefully you can see all of this. If not, I'm going to read it out for you, but I'd like you to write this down as I'm reading because this is important if you note. Plants need food to live. However, most can make their own food. They make this using the energy that they collect from the light. And this process is called photosynthesis. Pause the video now and write down these sentences. Okay. So, key ingredients for photosynthesis are carbon dioxide, which is what we breathe out, sunlight, and water. Again, write these down. You done that? Excellent. Okay, so carbon dioxide is collected in the leaves. I've talked so much about how important the leaves are for plants. They're collected through small holes called stomata. Okay, that carbon dioxide goes into the leaves, and you may have remembered as well, oxygen goes in as well as part of it. But for this process, it needs carbon dioxide to go into. What we breathe out goes into plants. Water, as we know from our previous lesson, is then absorbed into the roots and passes vessels in the stems, which are called xylems, well done, on its way to the leaves. The sunlight is then absorbed by a green chemical inside the leaves, hence why the leaves are colored green, and that's called chlorophyll. And then the oxygen is then released from the leaves. Carbon dioxide that's put into the leaves is used to form something called a glucose, which is the food that the plants use. Now, glucose is a type of sugar. It's the food that plants need in order to live. So as you can see, this is amazing. Plants make their own food using water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide. So I'm just going to go back again. And I want you to take note of what is happening. So write down every step. So the first one, carbon dioxide is collected in the leaves through the small holes called stomata. Pause this video as you're going if I'm going too quick. Water is then absorbed in the roots and passes in vessels called xylem in the stem on its way to the leaves. The sunlight is absorbed by a green chemical in the leaves called chlorophyll. and then the oxygen is released from the leaves. The carbon dioxide is then used to form glucose, which is the food for our plants. Okay, so this is what you're going to do with all of that information then. I'd like you to draw a picture of a plant. I know we've done lots of pictures of the plant. Or you could do it as a cartoon sequence again, because these are very good ways of showing it. I've got here all of the phrases that you need. All you need to do is draw a picture of the plant taking in the sunlight, taking in the carbon dioxide and taking in the water, pushing out that oxygen, and explain what is happening in each part of the process. So pause the video here and have a go at drawing now. Okay, so I've got a quick question for you, and you may have already thought about this before. Why are plants so important to human life? Well, yes, we do eat them. That's partly it. We can't use them for eat them. Yep, they do look very good in the garden. Yeah. Oxygen. That's very important. So you would have seen in the process that oxygen is released from the leaves. Do you see the arrow going off there from the leaf? Oxygen is what we breathe in, but also we breathe out carbon dioxide. Now we know that plants use both, but because they take the carbon dioxide in for photosynthesis to create their food, they push out the oxygen as they excrete, part of our Mrs. Greniger. We breathe in that oxygen. So that's so important. This is why places like the rainforest are called the lungs of the world, the Amazonian rainforest, because if the trees and plants keep getting cut down, eventually oxygen won't be able to be produced, because that's how we get our oxygen. So plants are so important. Okay, quick recap then at the end. Photosynthesis. Can you remember what the two parts of that word means? Well done. Light and putting together. So photosynthesis means light being put and putting together with what other two things? Water and not oxygen, carbon dioxide. Brilliant. Okay. And that's the end of that. So hopefully you produce a nice picture or cartoon sequence of how photosynthesis works. It's been really good fun, this learning with you about plants and learning how plants make their own food through photosynthesis, how the life cycle works, how seed germination, dispersal and pollination works. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you learned lots about plants. If you need to go back at all and go over anything, you always can. So I've been Mr. Startin. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hopefully, maybe I'll be doing a few more of these lessons in the future.